So guys, you're not going to believe this, but Nick830 ended up getting himself in some hot water just on his own. He seemed to not even just care about it, okay? So we're going to be breaking down the entire thing for you today, but we have to start with this post. We're going to walk you through the whole thing. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. I must apologize. I don't know how my energy level is going to be today, guys, because if you have been following the channel, I have been having spotty uploads for a little while because I ended up catching a children's virus because I had the best mom in the entire world and shielded me from this type of stuff. But now I caught a children's virus from a daycare. So I have sores in my throat and I'm a mess right now. I don't know if you can see my face, but we're working through the videos. So hopefully it's still enjoyable to watch, okay? Trying to be a little bit energetic for you guys, okay? So Hypex, let's start off with what Hypex had to say, okay? Fortnite and Netflix just took down all Squid Game recreations and will not allow any recreation until August 14th. Fortnite create, please consider a closer date because the hype will significantly die down 48 days after the show ends. Now, the idea that people should be able to make these maps right now or sooner is a conversation perhaps that we could have another time. Maybe we'll make a video on that, but get this, okay? So that was the thing that everybody's been talking about, but then Nick830 just dropped this on everybody. Don't worry, guys. I got you. And just drops his own Squid Game map. Like, this is ridiculous. Okay? I'm going to give my entire thoughts on this entire thing, but there's a little bit more that I need to walk you through. Long story short, guys, Nick830 is under fire right now because he used an AI fish stick, and I don't know if the entire thing's been AI, but the fish stick is absolutely AI, and this is obviously a Squid Game map, okay? This, I don't care what loophole it's going through, and we're going to get into it, okay? I have my entire thoughts that I want to share on this, but there is a little bit more that I wanted to share with you. So one of the replies had this to say, y'all couldn't just make a render fish stick instead of AI generating him? And Nick responded and said, these are all thumbnails we had a graphic designer make. Eventually, I used AI to try and get more appealing look and idea. The AI fish stick that we cropped and added to the thumbnail pumped more, but reconfirming a graphic designer created the main thumbnail and all of these others. So that didn't really make anybody happy. I don't know why Nick830 even responded to this, but again, we will get a little bit more into it, but I just can't believe that Nick830 just dropped that after everybody being upset and people losing their Squid Game maps. Nick830 just goes, don't worry, guys, I got you. One of the people that he had a little bit of a back and forth with is Denny over here, and of course, just, doing the, being upset about the idea that fish stick is AI, and Nick ended up responding to that as well, saying that this is our original thumbnail, but we did an A/B test and the new thumbnail had a higher CTR. Both thumbnails were made by a graphic designer. Fish stick was AI generated and cropped and added to the thumbnail. Apologies again, guys, I'm a little bit short of breath over here. Epic Games has stated that you can use AI in one of their previous Let's Chat live streams, okay? Now, before we dive into all of this, another thread that I wanted to talk about, I wanted to give my thoughts on the entire situation. And you look, hey, how do you like it? How do you like it? We got another camera. I know we showed it in another video, but I'm so proud of it, man. I'm happy because if you happen to not catch the last video, on my other monitor over here, I have some bullet points of things that I wanted to touch on. So because there are so many videos that I go through and I forget about things to talk about. So we're going to walk you through what I think, and then we're going to get into the Fortnite community, what they had to say, okay? So Nick ended up releasing a Squid Game map in Fortnite, despite Epic actually saying that these creators aren't allowed to do anything like that until a specific date. And of course, he ended up doing it anyways, which I find crazy. It's shocking to me that he actually ended up dropping that. Excuse me, guys. So I don't care what the workaround is or how Nick or anybody else tries to spin it. The map clearly looks like a Squid Game map. It is beyond obvious, and if you happen to catch Mr. JOY's video on the topic, I completely agree with him. I thought he broke it down very nicely. Everything looks like Squid Game, and the fact that this is still up shows you how much big creators end up getting away with. Nick is in a protected class, especially within Epic Games right now. That's the reality. Even if Epic Games does take this down, or by the time you're watching this, it ends up getting taken down, like, he'll still get away with this. He's still gonna make his nice big amount of money from this. It's just shocking. Like, it's like, hey guys, I have the fix, and what's crazy is it probably ended up working, right? And I don't want to hear anything about all these little loopholes that people keep using. Like, technically, it's not a Squid Game map because we changed this little piece here and there. It's dishonest. If these rules exist, then everybody should have to follow it. I don't think that I never really understood how these legal loopholes exist because they change these little things. Like, no, I look at that and I look at Squid Game, okay? Everybody should have to follow it. Not just the people with, millions of followers should be able to get away with it. But, of course, now we do have to talk about with the AI in the thumbnail. This is something that we've spoken about at great lengths on the channel, so I'm not going to get, too deep into it. Yes, Nick used AI art in the thumbnail, and yes, people are mad. Again, here's the thing, and I've said it a million times on this channel, we're not going to dive into the entire AI ethics argument, but here's where I think for this one specific instance, okay? Take your issues up with Epic Games. They allow AI, they said so, their platform supports it. If that bothers you so much, talk to them, because right now, all of your favorite creators are using AI, whether you like it or not. No matter how much they pretend they don't like it and they don't use it, they are using it. I really respect the people like Nick830 who are honest about it. And of course, not every creator is doing this, but especially the big ones running the big businesses, yeah, it's happening whether you like it or not, okay? Would it be nice if Nick paid artists? Sure, and I guess he paid somebody to use the AI, but I'm not exactly sure about that. But guys, he's not obligated to do so. I really don't like this entire argument. People keep saying okay, well, he has enough money. I don't like the argument because we have to be realistic when we're talking about this here. If he didn't have any money, people would still be trying to cancel him. People have no right to dictate what other people do with their money. How would you feel if the entire world got on your ass for everything that you've ever bought or your financial decisions that you've been making? Anything that you wanted to buy, people were like, okay, well, you can just pay this guy a little bit more money. You need to put the shoe on the other foot for once. It's not fair and it's not right. These creators like Nick are running businesses. They don't care about you. They don't care about your AI opinions. Most of them probably don't even read any of your comments. When you try to cancel them, they laugh at you. You think they lose sleep any of these Twitter rampages that are going on? No, they just look at this. They keep gaining their followers. They get them more views. If you want to support artists, go pay one. Stop expecting other people to do it for you while you sit on your phone talking about it all day, talking about what other people should be doing, talking about any sort of ethics. I do, though, on the other hand, think that Nick shouldn't have responded to any of the hate. He should have just, pulled a Mr. Beast and just ignored it and staying quiet, because if you do end up staying quiet, the Twitter mob will move on. They always do. Today it's you, tomorrow it's somebody else. And it's just how Twitter works. And it just goes to show what I keep talking about, where people don't actually care about the issue. They want someone to be mad at. And when they get bored, they'll find a new person, just villainize and chase after. I guarantee you, even maybe tomorrow, this'll all be done. This'll all be just completely over with. So in the grand scheme of things, what do we have here with Nick830? We have a Squid Game map that shouldn't be live yet. And I do agree, and it's very important to note, I do agree, yes, it should absolutely be taken down. I don't care about the loopholes. Take it down, make it so he has to follow the same rules as everybody else. Now, AI in the thumbnail, I know I'm going to get crucified for this one, but it's allowed by Epic Games. Deal with it. Take it up with Epic Games, okay? People are mad online, as usual. Nothing new there, I keep looking at this, and I can't believe that Nick830 actually ended up just posting that like it's nothing, If you want a better system, though, we need to hold Epic accountable. Otherwise, you're just wasting time yelling at people who don't want to hear you and people who don't care. And here's the worst part that people aren't ready to hear about, okay? All of this backlash will probably make Nick think next time, and I'm sorry, guys, you will have to excuse my language, but you know what? Fuck these guys. I'm going to use AI. That's what you make Nick830 thinks. That's the way everyone is the way that everybody is going about this isn't going to change anybody's minds. You're pushing all of these big creators further and further away from your mission, and it's actually hurting honest artists who are trying to make a living, who aren't problematic, because people are getting more and more sick of this as time goes on. It may seem like it isn't otherwise, okay? It may seem not like it because everybody is living in a Twitter bubble, but that's the reality. And this is coming from someone who's starting to actually finally getting a little bit behind the scenes of this now with my state and my own YouTube journey. It isn't hard to see, But I'm at a point now where I have the privilege of actually being able to speak to some of these creators, and a lot of them end up agreeing. Excuse me, guys, sorry about that. A lot of them end up agreeing with the positions that you see here on Twitter, but there are a lot of people who are also getting sick and tired about the policing going on. I've said a lot now, but it kind of just sums it up. And like, this is the most important part, okay? You have no right to dictate what somebody else does with their own money. Put the shoe on the other foot. If you disagree with that, you're wrong, and there's no helping you in that scenario. You have absolutely no right to dictate what somebody else does with their own money. So I said a lot just now, but of course, it's not just about what I think. I wanted to get a gauge on how the entirety of the internet ended up feeling about this as well. Sorry, guys, I'm still getting used to my tracking on all these other cameras over now. So it's a lot to get used to. Okay, so this entire thing did continue, but of course, I ended up posting this over on X over here. Feeling better, ready to record, going to record a video on this soon. If you have any thoughts, drop them below and I will include some of the replies. Thank you for your time. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of time to gather a ton of replies for this video because I ended up recording this shortly after, but I want to take a look at a couple interesting threads because this does continue on with Nick830, okay? Like I said, Denny was probably one of the biggest people that had an issue with this and responded to Nick830 saying, just because Epic said it's fine to use AI slop doesn't magically make it okay. You should know better. You're a big influential creator in this space. You can easily afford to commission actual map thumbnails made by real artists, but you choose to do this. Please be serious. I understand where these people are coming from, okay? I completely understand it, okay? And I'm not hating on Denny. I'm not doing anything like that, okay? But this like motherly attitude that people are having about it, where it's like, I'm disappointed in you, son. This type of things. These are the types of replies that are going to get people like Nick to just go, okay, fuck you guys. I'm going to keep using AI. None of this actually changes any opinions on it. And it doesn't matter how right, it doesn't matter how wrong you are about it. It's just going to drive people away from this. And like I said, it's going to hurt real artists. There was a response from DWDFN Dustin, Duos with a Dad. And this is what he had to say, okay? Thumbnail prices for creative spiked substantially after UEFN release. You can still get thumbnails for the same quality for a YouTube video for far less. Could it be many creators are tired of paying the inflated prices on thumbnails due to them being UEFN maps too? What people really need to understand is that most people cannot afford this type of thing. They cannot afford, like, think about somebody in my position. I upload on almost 6 channels daily, almost like at the bare minimum 3. I can't afford to pay for a thumbnail every single day. Not everybody's in the same scenario as me. I'm just using myself as an example, but someone like Nick830, yeah, he can afford it. Would it be nice? Yes, but I'm not going to police Nick830 on what he's supposed to do with his own money. Denny ended up responding to this with a screenshot, which I'm guessing is of Nick's map, and saying, no excuses, next question. This doesn't really get the point across because my point still stands. You have no right to dictate what other people do with their own money. This is not like a no excuses type thing. This isn't the dig that Denny thinks it is. And again, I'm not hating on Denny. I'm just, it's so simple to me, okay? Being hateful about it, and oh, I love this, okay, because it did agree with my initial opinion. Sorry, I typically get some authentic reactions over here, but I had to gather everything for myself for this video. Had to record it pretty quickly, okay? Being hateful isn't about going to convince Nick or any other creators to stop using AI. All artists are doing is creating a divide and making many less interested in hiring artists. How much money they have earned shouldn't be a metric in expecting someone to overpay for services either. If you read the response, an artist was still paid for in the thumbnail, so maybe next time they will just use AI due to these type of responses since they get backlash regardless. I'm not saying I believe AI should be used 100%, but it is a tool and a way to rapidly iterate during A/B tests. We have used it for rapid iteration before and then paid multiple artists to make our final versions for our final A/B tests. This is a very, very it's a correct response, okay? Especially this point over here. Being hateful about it isn't going to convince Nick or any other creators to stop using AI. All artists are doing is creating a divide and making many less interested in hiring artists. And there are so many artists out there. And I believe Denny's an artist. I don't know much about Denny, okay? Oh, concept artist, it says below here, okay? Now, I'm not saying that they're a problematic person, okay? I'm not saying anything along those lines. But there are a lot of artists who are just advertising their work, looking for work, and they are not yelling at people on Twitter. And what's going to happen in time is a lot of these creators who are looking for thumbnail artists are going to just go, okay, I don't want to deal with these types of people, because a lot of them and a lot of the loudest people in the artistic world, especially with UEFN and YouTube thumbnails and that stuff right now, They are being very aggressive, very hateful, and it's very demeaning because when I received some of this backlash at one point, and my gut looks, my initial response is kind of like, who are you? Who are you to be talking to me like that? Because it's like a disappointed dad talking to you. You know what I mean? And you have no right to be talking to people just like that. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the same thing. You have no right to dictate what other people do with their own money. I can guarantee you there's things that a lot of people, and especially a lot of artists, they've spent money on where I could circle back and go, hey, wouldn't that be better to just support artists with? Shouldn't you maybe not being that buying that bag of chips or whatever it is? You know what I mean? You can, and it doesn't matter how that doesn't relate to purchasing a product or anything. It's still dictating what people does with their own money. And that's what people keep trying to do. Denny ended up responding and saying, I'm not having a conversation with an AI slop defender with terrible takes. I'm sorry, take it up with someone else. Translation, you got me. And then Dustin ended up responding again saying, artists like you are the ones actually making people lose interest in paying other artists. As I stated above, we pay many of the top Fortnite render artists for our renders, normally more than one render per map. Maybe you should change our take on using those AI artists though, because it is a terrible take. Using AI as a tool for rapid iteration during testing doesn't mean I'm defending it or using it for finalized renders. I just asked if pricing in general might be why people are using AI more. And if you went into a blind tangent because you were too busy pocket watching to actually see what I was trying to discuss. Again, it was a completely well thought out response by Dustin over here. And I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm having a little bit of a lack of energy today, but I have sores in my throat. Okay. But this, and especially this other piece over here, artists like you are the ones actually making people lose interest in paying other artists. I'm not familiar with the way that Denny typically behaves, but it's a perfect example of, getting mad at a lot of people and kind of looking down on them when you have no right to be looking down on these people. It does make people disinterested in real artists. And should people? No, because there's a lot of really, really honest workers out there who aren't looking to demean people, who aren't looking to start fights with people. But eventually, and I'm talking a few months down the road, because this is just getting worse and worse as time goes on, people are going to look at this and say, I don't want to deal with any of those issues, and I'm just going to use AI. On top of that, like I've said so many times, you can't really realistically expect people to pay for something that is going to take days for a lot of people, with perhaps paying for revisions and things like that, when you have an alternative that's free with infinite revisions and can be done in 30 seconds. As much as I don't like that these AI programs exist, that is the reality of the situation. One, you can't dictate what other people do with their own money. Two, you can't possibly compete with something like that. And fighting and yelling at people isn't going to make people want to work with you. That's just the reality, okay? Denny ended up responding to that and saying this. Again, not having this conversation with you. You decided to make it about yourself for some reason, which, when I was clearly talking about Nick only and how he didn't put in any effort to actually get renders done, he got someone to do a small Photoshop job before resorting to AI. It's dodging what Dustin's talking about, okay? And Dustin ended up responding saying, not saying I believe AI should be used 100%, but as a tool and a way to rapidly iterate during A/B tests. When we have used it for rapid iteration before, then paid multiple artists to make our final versions for our final A/B tests. I was explaining that I don't support using it fully, then used a personal use case scenario as an example. That's not me making it about me. Not having a conversation with an AI slop defender with terrible takes. I'm sorry, take it up with someone else. You're being insufferable, and bringing this goofy response into the mix when I was trying to actually have a discussion, though, is why I explained more on how we used it. I asked a question, and instead of actually discussing it, you instantly went to countering with someone else's money. If anyone is making this about themselves, it's the artist crying about AI. Now, the problem is that Denny was just being immature in the situation, and there was nothing that they could have possibly said to get a one-up on Dustin, because Dustin did have a perfectly crafted response on it. But this really goes to show that this is the typical conversation that you see with this type of thing, okay? This is just one example of a conversation with people just getting their emotions out there, being angry and wanting to one-up somebody, wanting to take down somebody like Nick 830. And while it could be for a virtuous cause, it could be real, the fact that you are worried about AI, you are worried about artists, this doesn't help. This sort of attitude doesn't help, and you need to come from it from another angle, and you need to actually, when people like Dustin want to have conversations, people who are a UEFN developer themselves, who could potentially consider using AI, and you might have even just driven them to use AI even more, you have the opportunity to have a conversation with these types of people and not looking down on them, not making them feel bad about what they're doing, and not demeaning them. Because realistically, Who are you to be big broing somebody like that? You need to have actual discussions to change people's minds. And let me show you again Denny's response over here to that. This does not help at all. This does not help your cause. And this is coming from somebody who I don't like what AI is doing to the world. And I've been very vocal about that on the channel. This does not help. Responding to someone like Dustin like this is just going to drive him away from hiring any artists, and because he was obviously open having a discussion with the way that he phrased his responses, with the conversation that he was trying to begin, it was very evident that he is somebody who can have his mind change on these types of things. You just needed to prove your point a little bit better. You need to actually have a conversation with him instead of already villainizing him and already looking at him like he's an idiot, when in reality he's the one that was completely one-upping you on everything that you had to say. I'm not talking about Denny. I'm just using this conversation as an example because this is a common thing that you see in this entire conversation. The guys like Nick830, when they deal with everybody just yelling at them like this and not willing to have any sort of conversations, Nick830 shouldn't have even replied, to be honest with you, because he wasn't going to get anywhere. But you're just gonna make him laugh at you more. You're just gonna drive him to use AI more, and they're just gonna keep making their money behind the scenes while you're just stuck complaining about how much they're using AI. That's the reality of the situation over here. But there were a couple more replies over here that I wanted to take a look at. As a consumer, I'd rather see a thumbnail that has a lot of effort and work put into it rather than something lazy and put into AI to get the job done quicker. It just makes me think this map could be similar in time and effort. Support artists making art, please. You know, a lot of people would feel that way, and I understand where Rexium is coming through, but I imagine that the vast majority of people, and especially kids, don't care about that. I would imagine that they're going to see, oh, Squid Game map, I click on Squid Game map. That's what I believe most people will do, but hey, some people have higher standards, and that's totally okay. It's totally okay to judge maps by AI. 100%, I completely understand that. The only issue is in time that we're not going to be able to tell the difference. You're not going to be able to tell that the fish stick was AI generated. Muffin Man had this to say. I think that if Nick can make or hire someone to make, to make his video thumbnails, he can make a render a fish stick running. At the end of the day, AI is going to be a big part of the future, whether we like it or not. I agree with that. I think that is exactly the case. Like, AI's here to stay, and it would have been nice if Nick830 could have hired somebody to make a render, okay? I don't mind if small creators use AI. That's fine to me. But if someone who has made so much money, so much off content creation uses it, that's where I draw the line. He has the money to spend on someone to make a good render, but he chooses the lazy way. I don't get it. I don't look at it, and to be honest with you guys, I don't look at it as choosing the lazy way. I look at it as doing the quick way, not waiting days for something, okay? Conversation for another time if you want to have that conversation, okay? But I don't look at it as just like, oh, Nick830 was being lazy, okay? Now, this is the problem too. I don't mind if small creators use AI. I get that, okay? I get where you're coming from, but at what point, how much money does someone have to make in order for people to get over that little gap? It's just, it's something that you can't really draw a line on, but I do understand the point that they were making. Nick830 did end up responding to another reply by Rebel saying, the question is how long till it gets taken down. Nick830 said, it's a completely original game show map. It won't. And I think that this type of map should get taken down, to be honest with you. I like Nick's content, but I do think that it was, I can't believe that he dropped that still. I do think that Nick830 is finding some sort of little loophole. I don't know how he got away with it, but he's getting away with it. And that map should be taken down just like the rest of the Squid Game maps that have been taken down. I don't care what's in the map, just the thumbnail itself. It's getting people thinking that it's a Squid Game map. So if you want to talk a little bit more about UEFN drama, then why don't you check out this video right here talking about the Cypher PK situation. I would love to have you guys over there. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, everybody.